I'm going to move on now. We're going to I see that there are a number of you still on the line, and I thank you so much for your calls. We're going to have a few minutes at the end of the show where I can open up the calls again. But I want to turn now to our guests who are, I've just been told, are waiting on the line for us. And I'm so excited about this conversation because a lot of what we focus on this show has to do with the challenges that we are experiencing. And these two folks are going to help us remember that there are solutions. There are literally solutions at our fingertips when we know to reach for them. And our first guest, Arnold Ludd, who is a My Brother's Keeper Fellow. He is an ambassador for the Inspiring Minds program, and he is graduating this year from BCAM High School this month. He has been an honor roll student all throughout high school, extraordinarily active through his peer group. He is just an amazing young brother. He has excelled academically through high school. He is ranked third in his class, and he's a member of the National Honor Society, and he is going to be talking with us about his project idea, Gloves Up, Guns Down, his experience at the Inspiring Minds Shark Tank student event, where he was awarded funding to implement his program, and joining him is going to be Katrina Peru, who is the founding executive director of Inspiring Minds New York City. This is a collective of organizations. She is just, let me tell you, I've known Katrina since we were in college together, and she is amazing. In addition to the fact that she could whoop any of y'all on the basketball court, and she played for Penn State, where she won 2 Big Ten championships. I could talk all about her basketball skills, and y'all know I don't know nothing about basketball. But in addition to that, she has directed a ton of programs. She served as chief program officer at Urban Arts Partnership before she founded her current organization. She has shared her expertise through TED Talks and several statewide and national conferences. I could go on and on about both of their bios, but instead, Steve, can we just give them a big round of applause and thank them so much for being here and for joining us this morning. I'm going to wait for that applause until we find the applause button. There we go. Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Appreciate that. Arnold and Katrina, I'm so glad to have both of you here. Welcome to the Lurie Daniel Favors Show.
Hey, Lurie.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you both. Katrina, I'm going to skip you. I'm going to go straight to Arnold. You and I are old heads, and I want to talk to this young brother right here because, Arnold, I've seen the video that you put together advertising your program, Gloves Up, Guns Down, and I know that it is dedicated towards combating gun violence in school. But before we get to that, I want you to talk to us about the Student Shark Tank event that you participated in this summer or this past year, what that program was, and what you plan on doing with your winnings for that program.
So the Student Shark Tank, it was a Shark Tank with a lot of students from different parts of Brooklyn, and it was different people showing their projects. So my project was Gloves Up, Guns Down, and I was part of the MBK part of it when I faced up against one of my MBK fellows, and I won. So this project is Gloves Up, Guns Down. It was a project that me and my friends came up with in the summer, and we filmed a YouTube video in a park by our school. This was inspired by us just having a problem amongst each other and, seeing kids like ourselves on YouTube picking up some gloves and boxing out instead of using weapons.
Now, Arnold, one of the reasons I was impressed with your idea was that, I've often heard the old heads say, I can't believe these kids are shooting. Well, we used to do a fair one. If you got a problem with somebody, you take it out back and you handle it, man to man, woman to woman with the gloves. And yet we have seen that turning to guns and gun violence has been something that has been really prevalent, not just in Brooklyn, not just in Chicago, not just in LA, but really all across the country. We are seeing this increase in gun violence. Can you talk to us a little bit, Arnold, about what the impact, I know what it's like to be an adult living in the hood that's got those issues, but going to school where you know that you are either loved ones or family members or friends that you have are no longer here or friends who who are involved in activity that is going to lead to gun violence. Talk to us a little bit, for those of us in the audience who have not been in high school for a long time, talk to us about what it's like in your life to deal with issues of gun violence. How does that show up for you? What does it look like when these are the issues that you're confronting?
So in my life as a young black man walking down the street, it's always going to be, I say, a scared in my heart, wondering if I would get shot today or tomorrow. My parents is probably scared about me walking the streets because I don't know about y'all, but me, I know people that die from gun violence. I got family in jail for gun violence, and I'm sure you got friends and family that's in jail for gun violence or die from gun violence too. So for me, it's very scary going to a school in Brooklyn, New York. A lot of people usually move their kids out the hood. But I feel like I'm glad that I went to school out here because the hood made me. When people move out the hood, They send these kids to like schools where it's not really their minority, and that leads them to be soft, as you would say, from the hood. You know, me growing up here, it showed me how to be hard, how to, not take certain things as an offense, and how to be a better man in the future.
Now, Katrina, when I hear someone like Arnold, I'm reminded of the fact that as a parent, I'm every time my child walks out the house, my son, my oldest, I'm concerned about his safety. Every time. And yes, it's the police, but really it's also what Arnold was talking about, that fear of knowing that, yes, I have family members who have been impacted by gun violence. I have friends who have been involved in gun violence. And so I have myself run from shootouts with my baby in my hand. So when we're thinking about what it looks like for young people, as someone who, in your position, you are as a service provider, you are meeting the needs of these students. Talk to us about how they bring those issues to you and what it was that motivated you to host this Student Shark Tank event.
Okay, thank you. That's a very good question. And I want to shout out Arnold. Arnold is one of our top leaders in Inspiring Minds. He's led all kinds of initiatives. So I'm super excited about all that he's going to do with his project and beyond. So on my end, like once the pandemic happened, we really had to pivot and do everything differently. I had to be more present with my work than ever before. Before the pandemic, everything was, we could plan by the month, we could plan by the year, what we're going to be doing. But once the pandemic started, the things changing by the week, by the day, by the month. It was really hard to actually plan long term. So I was forced to be more present than ever before. And in being more present, that meaning, having to, talking and being in dialogue with the kids on a daily basis. Every Friday, I have a meeting with 10 high school students, and they let me know what's going on. That's how we're able to stay relevant. That's one of the reasons why they sign into our programs every day. But it's not just about understanding what's going on with them, but also giving them a platform to be able to build and lead their own initiatives and projects to solve their own problems in their communities.
Now, that's actually one of the things that I just want to pause you there for just a minute. That's actually one of the things I'm so fascinated by about your program, because Inspiring Minds is one of those programs. It's not, we've got poverty pimp programs out there. And those are the programs, for those of you who don't know, if you are a program who the best you can do is stop black kids from fighting on a basketball court or teach them a dance routine for their after school program. I mean, that's the best you can do. All right. But 9 times out of 10, that's not the best you can do. That's just the easiest thing you can do because you're able to pimp the conditions and get paid without having to put in a lot of effort. Katrina, Inspiring Minds is the exact opposite of that. And I have seen your program and I've watched it grow during a pandemic when everyone across the country seems to be having such difficulty reaching children, particularly black children. You guys are actually having a lot of success with online virtual programming, and it sounds like those weekly meetings are certainly part of it. But what are some of the other ingredients that you are putting into this program that is allowing you to achieve such success, reaching a population of students that other people are not able to successfully reach during this period?
Wow, thank you for asking that question. So what I want to share is, like, prior to the pandemic, in the year 2019, I probably wrote 15 proposals for funding, and none of them got funded. 15 straight proposals, they all got denied. And I was speaking to one funder, and she said to me, I think what you're doing is great and it's awesome, it's much needed in our community, but it's going to be really hard to get funding for programs that address systemic racism, that really is rooted in social justice, and talking about oppression against black and brown kids. She said, but at the same time, she said, don't change. Keep doing what you're doing because we need it, and eventually a breakthrough is going to happen. And I remember I almost wanted to quit, going into after I got my last rejection letter for funding. I wanted to quit. I thought, like, maybe, if I can't get the resources, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe this isn't what I should be doing. But I decided to keep anyway because I do feel like this is part of my purpose. I feel like God gave me this vision, so I'm going to keep going. Then the pandemic happened, and then when the pandemic happened, all of a sudden, not just the pandemic, but George Floyd happened, Breonna Taylor happened. All these things started happening, and all of the inequities in our communities were magnified. Magnified to the point where it can no longer be ignored. And anyone who's been on social media, you guys all saw how everybody started to jump on the bandwagon by saying, like, hey, we fund social justice organizations. Who's unpacking systemic racism? And then all of a sudden, the work that we've already been doing became more of a priority. It became more important. and people saw value in it. So just like that, there was a turn of events. It went from not being able to get any funding to all of a sudden people started to see value in what we were doing. We started to get grants, and we didn't do anything different. We just kept doing the same things we were already doing.
So you were already meeting the needs of Black children. You were doing this beforehand.
You were already meeting the needs of Black children.
Not getting funded. You're meeting the needs of Black children, not getting funded, and then the pandemic strikes, and there's a realization, oh snap, there's not a lot of people out there doing this work, and so you end up seeing a turn in your own ability to provide services, and you were able to then turn that into these sort of innovative ideas where the children are literally telling you what it is that you need, and you organize to provide it. Talk to us about the Shark Tank project and how that came to be, because I know I talk to people on a regular basis, and I know there are at least 10,000 people, I'm going to say 10,000 people right now, who have a passion for Black children, who want to create programming for them, but who are running into what you experienced. And yet you took that and turned it around. Talk to us about the Shark Tank experience and how that sort of embodies really everything that it is that you're talking about.
Okay. Well, I decided to do the Shark Tank experience because the one thing that worked really well for us during the pandemic was running youth-led, youth-designed programs and initiatives. And another thing that kept coming up during the pandemic was the amount of mental health issues our youth were having. Almost every day, I had young people sharing with me their challenges with anxiety or depression, and even suicidal ideation. That wow. Came up a lot more than I thought it should. But it's a real thing. Whether you hear our high school kids talking about it or not, it's a real thing that's going on with our kids. Some of it was there before the pandemic, but it spiked during the pandemic.
Can we pause there for just a second? I'm sorry, Katrina. I just want to pause there for a second. A lot of times when we hear the word suicidal ideation, we don't think about Black children, but you're talking about Black children. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear about that because a lot of times we hear that and people are like, oh, that's not our kids. We don't do that. That's false. What we need to be clear about is that is absolutely false. And Black children are entertaining these ideas and they are choosing suicide as a one of many other options that they are considering. So we have to be aware that I just wanted to make sure that we were clear about that so people didn't brush that aside. I'm sorry. Go right ahead. Continue your point.
Yeah, we even had one young man on his first day of coming to our program during, you have like a poetry writing class, and he shared a poem about wanting to end it all, and nobody would miss him anyway. His whole poem was about that. And when his poem was over, it opened up a conversation amongst our teams around others. Others started sharing that they felt the same way. And then it turned into them giving advice to one another around what they could do to support one another and the importance of staying connected. And then that's where our I'm Connected campaign kind of birthed from. We know that being isolated is like the ingredient for becoming depressed or increased anxiety rates. So our young people are challenging other kids to come up with activities or service projects that would bring their peers together so that every kid can feel connected to either each other or to the larger community. And that's where the Shark Tank idea came from. So the Shark Tank idea, I had about $10,000 of additional funds. So I was going to fund up to $10,000 for projects from our high school kids to fund their activities, to fund their service projects. And when we started the campaign, we received about 40 proposals from high school kids around Brooklyn. We had a committee of about 8 kids who read through the proposals and scored the proposals. And then the top 11 students who had the highest scores were able to present their ideas Shark Tank style to the larger community through a Zoom town hall. And we had judges, and the judges were also from the community. Superintendent Karen Watts was a judge. The president of Diversity in Action magazine, he was a judge. We had a student judge, Matt Perdomo, was also a judge. And, there was a variety of judges.
Wow. And
some of the judges were people who actually invested funds in the project. So it's kind of like a real Shark Tank where the investors are actually getting a chance to decide who they're going to fund and give feedback. And one of the superintendents called me the day before the event, and she started off by saying that she didn't want to be a judge anymore. And I asked her why not, and she's like, well, I just feel bad about the kids who don't win, and I just feel like they all should win. Can you please rethink this? And I was like, well, if we fund all the kids, I'm going to need $8,000 more. So just like that, I got $8,000 more.
What?
So I originally, yes, just like that. So I originally wanted to only grant $10,000, and we ended up being able to fund $18,000 worth of projects to our young people. And it was pretty funny because during the event, they didn't know that they were all going to win. So we treated it as if it was a competition.
Wow.
And then at the end, there was this great reveal that they were all going to be funded. So we actually have 11 students who are running projects this summer, service projects. Projects kind of range from mental health projects to environmental justice projects to food justice projects. To fun things like Friday Vibes, where they just watch movies together on Fridays, as a way to have fun together. So I'm excited about that, and that's going to be our summer program this year. I never ran a summer program that was 100% led by our youth, but we're going to see how it goes, and I have full confidence that they're going to knock it out the park. And Arnold is one of the winners, so the Gloves Up, Guns Down project is going to be one of the initiatives that will be running.
Arnold, talk to us. I'm so proud of you. I wish I could see you in person and we didn't have the Rona, so I could just hug you up and love you up, but just know that I'm virtually sending you all the hugs and all the loves. Talk to us about your project in particular. I know you mentioned it briefly in the very beginning, but this pitch that you were able to successfully get funded, what was that like for you to have an idea that you could share with other people, that other people believed in so much that they would want to make sure you got the money, or you were one of many who could get the money. And then what do you hope to see with your project?
It was great, but I can't take all the credit for the project because, I had my friend group help me with it too, but I was the one that was writing the proposal for this project. But this project will be held at my school, Brooklyn Community Arts and Media High School. It will be a 3-week training. It will teach the kids how to box professionally. And then at the last week, we will have a box-off where we match up students. And also, I will have a DA officer that I connected to through Inspiring Minds to come talk to the kids for an hour about gun violence. And I'll be promoting my project through the Arm and Love Superintendency meeting about gun violence prevention.
You say the name of the superintendent meeting one more time. You said it's Armed with Love?
Yes, Armed with Love. I'm actually hosting that event, and that's why I'm going to talk a little bit more about my project too.
And what made you decide that it should be named Armed with Love?
So it's Armed with Love because it's a family. Your community is your family.
Come on.
So Armed with Love comes from you being a family and be family killing each other. Us as Black people, we are family. Kids go to school together. Black people go to work together, and we shouldn't be killing our own.
And every time the news says, well, they don't care about themselves enough to stop gun violence, I just need everyone to look at someone like Arnold Ludd, like this project that he created. Arnold, how can we support those people? This is a national show. There are people who are all across the country. How could they support your Armed with Love project to prevent gun violence?
At this point right now, I'm making a GoFundMe. So if you would like to donate money, you could do that. I did receive $2,500 from Inspiring Minds. So I will be investing that into boxing gear for my project and getting the space, to pay for the instructor. I have the connection with the DA's office. You could send donations. You could just share the flyer. I have a flyer, and just make, you could come stop by the school to see. We will be recording a video. So any way that you want to donate, or just come and stop by, be a special guest, and share your thoughts on it, I would love it.
I'm definitely going to be sharing the link to your event on my Twitter handle at Lurie Favors, which is why I tell all my audience at the beginning of the show why you should be following my account so we can share this information with you. Katrina, your organization, Inspiring Minds, it sounds like y'all are doing the gods and the goddesses work of keeping our children meaningfully occupied. And I know I'm going to have you come back because I know that there are so many projects that you have your hands on with these young people, projects that are actually producing these amazing results. Talk to us about how we can follow the work of Inspiring Minds. And I know that we're going to have to have more. I already know we're going to have you come back, but just talk to us now about how we can follow the work of Inspiring Minds so that the other folks who are wanting either inspiration for how they can grow their programs or who want to just support and grow your program, how can they follow the work that you guys are doing?
Okay, well, we are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can follow us at Inspiring Minds NYC. Our Twitter handle is at IMNYC12. And as far as support is concerned, there's donation links on all of our social media pages. On Twitter, in the bio, you will see a GoFundMe link. And if you're interested in donating to Arnold's project, you can donate through that GoFundMe link and just type in the notes Arnold's project, and I will make sure that he gets it. And also, just keep in mind that in the social sector, only 4% of all the funds that's out there go to Black nonprofits. You know, so that means that 96% of the funds that are out there for nonprofits are going to others, even though most of the work is for our own communities. You know, so it's really important that we support one another, because I have to say it's by the grace of God that we've been able to do as much as we've been able to do and have the impact that we've had, you know, with the amount of resources that we've received. So any donation and any amount of support would be appreciated.
Well, I'm going to definitely be sharing the link. The Armed with Love event, I think, is just it's a beautiful example of what happens when we don't just say, we got to do something about these kids, but we then look to the kids and say, kids, what should we do? I think this is just a great example that we don't have to have all the answers. Sometimes when you provide our children with the resources that they need, they've got solutions within them that need to be teased out and just have a way to be let out into the world. So Arnold Ludd, it has been such a pleasure to meet you up close and personal. I've watched your videos. I've been so impressed with your presentation and the way you just communicate and what you said about our community being a family. That, to me, I think is one of the things that's going to make me smile the most about today. Let Arnold Ludd and Katrina Peru, thank you both so much for being here. I appreciate having you both here with us.
Thank you. Hope y'all show up to the event tomorrow at 4 p.m.
Oh, I'm tweeting it out now, so I will definitely have my link open, and I will be paying attention to how you are going to teach me how to be a much better adult, because I think sometimes the adults need to learn from the children. All right, folks, we are going to leave it there. We are going to head into our last commercial break for this hour. Much more to come on the Lurie Daniel Favors Show. Arnold Ludd, Katrina Peru, so glad to have both of you here with us. Much more to come. We'll be right back after this.